Greetings, friends. My name is Pavel Stelmach, and now we will dive into the top news of this day. Today, on June 22nd, until 2014, it was the day of the beginning of the war. On June 22nd, we mark the day of mourning and commemoration of war victims of the occasion of the attack of Nazi Germany on the USSR in 1941. But now we have another war, and there are historical parallels between 1941 and 2022. In both cases, the aggressor counted on a blitzkrieg but received a repulse and exhausting war. Moreover, as for Germany in 1941 and for Russia right now, there is international isolation. And Ukraine again received cities wiped from the face of the earth, dams blown up, mass burials. The scale of destruction caused by the Russian invaders in some places exceeds what the Nazis left behind. For Ukraine, the significance of a full-scale war with Russia has already surpassed the role played by the Second World War in public memory. Now, when the word war is used, Ukrainians will mean the modern one, not the one that took place 80 years ago.
On June 22nd, we honor the bright memory of Ukrainians whose lives were cut short by the Second World War, those who fell victim of the Nazi occupiers. Today, the war with the racist occupiers broke into every Ukrainian home with grief and pain. Not only military personnel are killed by shelling, rockets and terror of the aggressor, but also those who pose no threat: women, children, the sick and the elderly. Liberators kill civilians, loot cities and villages, destroy everything in their path. We bow our heads, share the pain of irreparable loss together with our relatives and friends. The heroic resistance of the Russian onslaught shows that the well-coordinated, clear activity and stability of the defense forces of Ukraine and strong international support are the key to our success. Our strength is in unity. No enemy will break us. We defeated Nazism, we will defeat the Russian regime. Kirill Budanov, head of the main directorate of intelligence of Ministry of Defense of Ukraine.
And now Putin's Russia always hides behind the moral authority of the country victor over Nazism is bankrupt. The Russians, led by their Führer, have become Nazis and are repeating their crimes against nations, against humanity, and against the Ukrainian and Russian peoples. But from Russian insanity, all of Europe already suffered and can suffer more. Now, with the nuclear bluff of Moscow and Minsk, currently there is no data on the preparation of the use of nuclear weapons by the enemy. A return to the old threats to use nuclear weapons is a clear sign that the aggressor will be defeated on the battlefield. A similar situation has already happened more than once. Historically, the nuclear weapon factor is effective only as a risk factor for its use. That is, as a factor of psychological warfare, as a bluff. The hypothetical use of tactical nuclear weapons by the Russian Federation will not create real advantages for it on the battlefield, but will only consolidate the entire world against the Kremlin. The assumption that Russia will avoid retaliatory strikes after a nuclear aggression and will generally be able to control nuclear escalation is naive and irresponsible. The Russian Federation has no chance of winning a nuclear war. Ukraine has proven that modern Western air defense systems are capable of destroying Russian nuclear-armed cruise missiles. In addition, the real state of combat readiness of the Russian nuclear arsenal raises many questions and doubts. However, we stop Russia from taking reckless steps right now, so that what happened in Chernobyl or at Kakhovka HPP does not happen again.
Я нагадую тим, хто забув, це найбільша атомна станція в Європі.
I remind those who have forgotten that the Zaporizhzhia Nuclear Plant is the largest nuclear power plant in Europe. Everyone in the world, the International Atomic Energy Agency, all countries, all leaders knows exactly what is happening there. Russia uses the Zaporizhzhia Nuclear Power Plant as an element in its aggression, occupies the station, covers with the shelling of neighbouring cities. They keep weapons and soldiers there. Now our intelligence have received information that Russia is considering the scenario of a terrorist act at the Zaporizhzhia Nuclear Plant, a terrorist act with the release of radiation. They have prepared everything for this.
Because the Russian terrorist act at the Kakhovka HPP is a deliberate ecocide that also jeopardizes regional energy security. Russia's ruining of the Kakhovka Dam is Europe's most significant environmental and humanitarian disaster in decades. There can be no doubt that it was Russia who blew up the dam. Only Russian forces had the motives and the means to cause such destruction. We strongly oppose any attempts to sow doubt about who is responsible for the disaster. This is not neutrality, but doing Russia's bidding and helping Russian propaganda take the responsibility of Russia. The European Parliament has strongly condemned Russia's actions that led to the destruction of the Kakhovka HPP and the horrible consequences for the population and environment. The International Criminal Court in The Hague has investigated the dam's ruining. The death toll from the Russian terrorist act at the Kakhovka has risen to 17, and 31 people remain missing. 3,614 people, including 474 children, were evacuated from the affected areas. The dam's explosion has also caused an environmental disaster. Cholera was found in the waters. Numerous cases of flora and fauna damage in the region have been reported. Crops in the Kherson, Zaporizhzhia, and Dnipropetrovsk region are under threat, further jeopardizing global food security. The consequences of the Russian terrorist act will be felt far beyond Ukraine. Russia's crime of ruining the dam proves the high relevance of Ukraine's peace formula. We call on international partners to join its implementation as soon as possible, particularly its relevant items on countering ecocide and ensuring nuclear and energy security. In the UK, they announced that they would support Ukraine's entry into NATO under a simplified procedure. British Foreign Secretary James Cleverly said his country would be very supportive if Ukraine could go through a streamlined NATO membership process. He stated this on June 21st at a conference on the restoration of Ukraine in London. Cleverly believes that London will support Ukraine's proposal not to go through the map to join the alliance.
We have seen Ukraine evolve incredibly quickly. Jens Stoltenberg at the NATO informal foreign ministers said that actually many of the requirements of the membership action plan are actually being delivered. The reform of their armed forces is happening whilst engaged in conflict. I think the UK's position would be very, very supportive if we moved on from the membership action plan, recognising that the offer to both Sweden and Finland didn't require that. And the Ukrainians have demonstrated their commitment to reform, the military reform required for NATO membership through their actions on the battlefield, and I think all NATO allies recognise that.
And you know that NATO needs Ukraine just as much Ukraine needs NATO. Russian terrorism is a threat to the entire free world. No one can consider their borders protected and people's safety guaranteed as long as Russia persists in its acts of aggression and attempts to annex someone else's land. We expect NATO allies to take a decisive step towards Ukraine's membership at the NATO summit in Vilnius on July 11th and 12th. We are realists and understand that Ukraine's membership in NATO will come after the security situation allows. Still, accession is a process, and steps towards Ukraine's membership must now be taken. The foundation of our security of the post-war period is being laid right now. Ukraine's membership will strengthen NATO by protecting its members from any potential expansion of Russian aggression and sharing our priceless experience with the alliance. Strategically, our joining will make the cost of direct conflict with NATO unaffordable for Russia. We don't expect Ukraine's membership in NATO to end this current war, but it will help prevent future possible wars after Ukraine wins this one. We already significantly contribute to Euro-Atlantic security, operate under NATO standards, and use NATO weapons. The summit in Vilnius provides an excellent chance for allies to act. NATO needs Ukraine just as much as we need NATO. That concludes our today's video. Thank you for watching and stay updated. Subscribe to our UATV English channel for more news from Ukraine. Your support is that really matters. Goodbye.